My family sabotaged my career for 20 years, then I discovered the truth. Okay Reddit, I need to get this off my chest because I'm currently sitting in my childhood bedroom at 2 a.m., my eyes puffy from crying, and I honestly don't know if my family will ever speak to me again. This happened 3 days ago, and I'm still processing everything that went down. Some background: I'm Anna, 28, and I have a younger brother Tom who's 25. We grew up in a typical suburban house in Ohio with our parents, Mom, Linda, and Dad, Robert. On paper, we're the perfect American family: white picket fence, golden retriever named Buster, the whole 9 yards. But as I learned this Christmas, sometimes the prettiest pictures hide the darkest secrets. I should have seen the warning signs the moment I pulled into our driveway on December 22nd. Tom's brand new Tesla was parked where my beat-up Honda Civic usually went, gleaming under the porch light like some kind of monument to success. I had to park on the street, which already put me in a weird headspace. It felt symbolic, you know? Like I was being pushed to the margins before I even walked through the front door. Mom practically launched herself off the porch when she saw me climbing out of my car, her perfectly coiffed grey hair bouncing as she rushed over. She's one of those women who somehow manages to look like she stepped out of a 1950s magazine even when she's just lounging around the house, always perfectly dressed, makeup on point, not a hair out of place. "Anna, sweetheart. Oh my goodness, you look so thin. Are you eating enough?" she gushed, wrapping me in one of her signature vanilla-scented hugs. Before I could answer, she was already pulling away, her attention shifting to something over my shoulder. "Did you see Tommy's new car? Isn't it gorgeous? He got the fully loaded model, all the fancy gadgets and everything." And there it was. Less than 30 seconds home, and we were already talking about Tom. Dad emerged from the house then, and I swear he moved faster than I'd seen him move in years. Robert's always been the strong, silent type, built like a linebacker even at 58, with these intense blue eyes that could either make you feel completely safe or totally intimidated. He used to be my hero when I was little. "There's my girl," he boomed, but even as he hugged me, I could see his gaze drifting toward the Tesla. Tom's inside showing us pictures of his new place. Wait until you see it: 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a kitchen that looks like something out of those fancy magazines your mother's always reading. My stomach clenched. I'd been dreading this conversation, but I figured I might as well get it over with. "Actually, I have some news too. Remember how I've been working on that freelance writing project? Well, I just landed a contract with—" "Oh, that's nice, dear," Mom interrupted, already heading toward the house. "Come on, let's get you inside. Tom's been waiting to show you the photos, and dinner's almost ready. I made your favorite. Well, actually, I made Tom's favorite, but I got you that salad you like from the store." That stung more than it should have. Tom's favorite was Mom's homemade lasagna, this incredible recipe she perfected over the years with layers of cheese and her special sauce. My favorite was apparently a pre-packaged Caesar salad from the grocery store. The message was crystal clear. Walking into our living room felt like entering some kind of shrine to Tom's success. The coffee table was covered with printouts of his new house, and I'll admit, it was beautiful. A gorgeous colonial-style home in an upscale neighborhood about an hour from the city, with perfectly manicured landscaping and one of those driveways that curves elegantly up to the front door. Tom was sprawled on the couch like he owned the place, which I guess in a way he always had. He's got that effortless charm that some people are just born with: tall, athletic build, sandy brown hair that always looks perfectly tousled even when he rolls out of bed. He's the kind of guy who peaked in high school and somehow managed to keep that momentum going into adulthood. "Anna," he jumped up, flashing that $1,000,000 smile. "Finally! I've been dying to show you the new place. Look at this kitchen: granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and an island bigger than your entire apartment." He wasn't wrong about that last part. My studio apartment in Portland could probably fit inside his kitchen pantry, but the way he said it made me feel small. Like my choices were somehow inferior just because they were different. "It's beautiful," I managed, forcing a smile. "You must be really proud." "Oh, he is," Dad chimed in, settling into his recliner with a beer. District manager at 25. When I was his age, I was still figuring out which end was up. This kid's got his whole life mapped out. The praise kept flowing like wine at a wedding, and I found myself shrinking further into the background with each compliment. Tom had gotten the promotion just 2 months ago, regional district manager for a major retail chain, complete with a company car, stock options, and apparently the kind of salary that makes buying a $250,000 house seem reasonable. Meanwhile, I'd spent the last 3 years building my freelance writing career from nothing, finally landing my first major contract with a non-profit organization that was going to pay me more than I'd ever made in a year. But somehow, whenever I tried to bring it up, the conversation would circle back to Tom's achievements like water down a drain. Dinner was more of the same. Mom had gone all out, the good china, cloth napkins, candles, the works. She kept jumping up to refill Tom's wine glass or ask if he needed more Parmesan cheese, while my water glass sat empty and my questions about her book club got one-word answers. The breaking point came when Mom brought out dessert, a homemade chocolate cake with "Congratulations, Tom," written in elegant script across the top. I'd been holding it together pretty well up until that moment, but seeing that cake was like getting punched in the gut. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I actually wanted to tell you all about my new contract. It's a really big deal for me." She barely looked up from cutting Tom's slice. "Oh yes, dear, you mentioned something about that. Writing, right? That's nice. Tom, do you want ice cream with this?" And that's when something inside me just snapped. "Are you kidding me right now?" The words came out louder than I intended, and suddenly everyone was staring at me. I just landed the biggest contract of my career, something I've been working toward for 3 years, and you can't even pretend to care for 5 minutes. The dining room went dead silent. Mom's face flushed red, the way it always did when she was embarrassed. Dad set down his fork with that careful precision that meant trouble was brewing. Tom looked genuinely surprised, like it had never occurred to him that I might have feelings about any of this. "Anna," Mom said in that tone she used to use when I was 10 and throwing a tantrum, "there's no need to be dramatic. We're all very proud of your little writing projects." Little writing projects. I felt my voice rising, but I couldn't seem to stop it. "Mom, I'm going to be making more money this year than I ever have. This contract could change my entire career trajectory, and you just called it a little project while falling all over yourself to celebrate Tom's house photos." That's when Dad decided to step in, because God forbid anyone should upset the precious family harmony. "Now Anna, nobody's trying to diminish what you're doing. But you have to understand, Tom's news is a big deal. He's buying a house, settling down, making something of himself." Making something of himself. I could hear my voice getting shrill, but I was beyond caring. "What exactly do you think I've been doing for the past decade?" "Playing house." "Well," Mom said, and I could tell she was choosing her words carefully, "you have to admit, dear, your lifestyle is a bit unsettled. Moving around, those little jobs here and there, no real career path." No real career path. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood floor. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism, 3 years of professional experience, and I just signed a contract that's going to pay me $60,000. But sure, let's talk more about Tom's kitchen island. The number seemed to hang in the air for a moment. I saw something flicker across Dad's face, surprise, maybe even respect, but it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Tom, bless his oblivious heart, chose that moment to try to play peacemaker. "Hey, come on guys, this doesn't have to be a competition. Anna, that's awesome about your contract. Really? But you know how Mom and Dad are, they worry about you being so far away, not having anyone to take care of you." "Take care of me?" I turned to stare at him. "Tom, I've been taking care of myself just fine. I pay my own bills, I have my own life, I'm building a career in something I actually care about. Why does everyone act like that's less valuable than buying a house in the suburbs and settling into the exact same life Mom and Dad have?" "Because," Dad said quietly, and something in his tone made everyone freeze, "at least Tom's not running away from his problems." The words hit me like a slap across the face. Running away from my problems? I moved to Portland because I got into a great graduate program. I stayed because I loved the city and found opportunities there. I built a life there because it was where I felt happy and fulfilled. But looking around the table at my family's faces, I realized that's not how they saw it at all. To them, I was the daughter who couldn't hack it at home, who ran away to the other side of the country and played at being independent while my younger brother stepped up and became the son they'd always wanted. Problems. My voice came out barely above a whisper. What problems am I running away from? Mom and Dad exchanged one of those loaded looks that married couples perfect over decades of communication. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair, suddenly very interested in his cake. Anna, Mom said finally, you know we love you. But ever since high school, you've been so angry, so determined to prove something. Moving across the country, choosing such an uncertain career path, never bringing anyone home to meet us. It's like you're trying to show us that you don't need us. Maybe because I don't. The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. Maybe because every time I come home, you make it crystal clear that nothing I do will ever be good enough. Tom gets a promotion and you throw him a parade. I build a successful freelance career and you pat me on the head like I'm a child playing dress up. That's not fair, Tom said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? I turned to him, years of resentment finally bubbling to the surface. Tell me, Tom, when's the last time Mom called you to ask if you were eating enough? When's the last time Dad questioned your life choices or suggested you might want to consider settling down with a nice stable job? When's the last time anyone in this family treated your achievements like adorable little hobbies instead of real accomplishments? He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. And in that silence, I realized something that made my blood run cold. They weren't treating me differently because they were worried about me. They were treating me differently because they'd never expected me to succeed in the first place. The silence in that dining room was deafening, broken only by the tick of Mom's antique grandfather clock and the sound of my own heart hammering in my chest. But then something shifted in the air. Tom set down his fork and looked directly at me for what felt like the first time all evening. Anna, he said quietly, you want to know the truth. You really want to know, Tom? Dad's voice carried a warning that made my skin crawl. No, Dad. She's right. She's been right this whole time. Tom pushed back from the table and stood up, running his hands through that perfect hair. Anna, do you remember when you graduated valedictorian from high school? The question caught me off guard. Of course I do. Why? Do you remember what Mom and Dad said when you told them you got into Northwestern with a full scholarship? I frowned, trying to recall. It had been 10 years ago, but I remember being so excited, bouncing around the kitchen with the acceptance letter in my hands. They said they were proud of me. They said it was a great opportunity. Tom let out a bitter laugh that I'd never heard from him before. That's not what they said when you left the room. Thomas. Mom's voice was sharp now, dangerous. But Tom ignored her, his eyes locked on mine. They said they were worried you were getting too big for your britches. Dad said smart girls who think they're better than everyone else usually end up alone and miserable. Mom said she hoped college would humble you a little. The words hit me like physical blows. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to deny it, to tell Tom he was wrong or mistaken. But Mom just stared at her hands, and Dad's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. That's not. I started, but my voice cracked. There's more, Tom continued, and now he looked almost sick. Do you remember sophomore year when you called home crying because your roommate was making your life hell? I did remember. Sarah Martinez had been a nightmare, stealing my food, bringing guys over at all hours, playing music so loud I couldn't study. I'd called home desperate for advice, maybe even hoping they'd tell me to come home for a weekend to decompress. Mom told me you were probably being too sensitive, that you needed to learn to get along with people better. She said college kids like Sarah knew how to have fun, and maybe you could learn something from her. The room started to spin a little. But you told me to stick it out. You said it would make me stronger. Because that's what they told me to tell you. Tom's voice cracked. Anna, I was 17 years old, and they were coaching me on what to say to keep you from coming home. I gripped the edge of the table, feeling like the floor was shifting beneath me. What are you talking about? Tom looked at our parents one more time, and I saw something I'd never seen in his face before: disappointment. Deep, bone-weary disappointment. They were afraid you'd transfer back to state if you came home. They thought if you stayed away and toughed it out, you'd graduate and then, I don't know, find some nice guy to settle down with and stop being so ambitious. Stop, Dad finally spoke up, his voice rough. That's enough. No, it's not enough. I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward with a crash. Is that true? Were you actually trying to sabotage my college experience? The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. We were trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From disappointment. The words burst out of her like she'd been holding them back for years. Anna, you've always been so smart, so driven, so determined to conquer the world. But the world isn't fair to girls like you. We've seen it happen, bright, ambitious women who spend their 20s chasing dreams and wake up at 35 alone and childless, wondering where their life went. I stared at her in disbelief. So you decided to sabotage me instead? To make sure I'd fail. We never tried to make you fail, Dad said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. We thought if you learned to be more realistic about your expectations, you'd be happier in the long run. More realistic. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. You mean more like you? There's nothing wrong with our life. Mom snapped, her composure finally cracking. We have a beautiful home, a stable marriage, we raised 2 children. We're happy. Are you? The question popped out before I could stop it, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you spent the last 10 years so terrified of me succeeding that you forgot to actually be proud of anything I accomplished. That's when Dad exploded. Proud? You want us to be proud? He stood up, towering over the table like some kind of angry giant. Anna, you moved 3,000 miles away the day after graduation and barely call unless you need something. You've never brought a boyfriend home, never talked about marriage or kids, never even asked our opinion about your career choices. You made it crystal clear that you don't need us, so excuse us if we stop trying to compete for your attention. The accusation hit me like a freight train. Compete for my attention? Dad, I call home twice a week. I come home for every major holiday. I send birthday cards and Christmas presents and graduation photos. Duty calls, he shot back. That's all they are. You check in with us like we're some obligation on your to-do list. Maybe because every time I try to share something important with you, you either ignore it or find a way to make it about Tom, because Tom actually wants to be part of this family. Dad's voice was getting louder now, his face flushed red. Tom calls to ask for advice. Tom brings girlfriends home to meet us. Tom talks about his future like we might be part of it. And I don't. Do you? Mom's voice was quiet, but it cut through the shouting like a knife. Anna, be honest. When you picture your life 5 years from now, are we in it? The question stopped me cold. I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it again. Because the truth was, I hadn't really thought about it. My 5-year plan involved growing my business, maybe buying a house in Portland, possibly getting serious with Jake, the guy I'd been casually dating for 6 months. But my parents? Did I picture Sunday dinners and holiday visits and phone calls about my day-to-day life? Did I imagine them being grandparents to my hypothetical future children? The hesitation must have shown on my face, because Mom nodded sadly. That's what I thought. But that's not. I struggled to find the words. Mom, that doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I built a life somewhere else. Built a life, or ran away to build a life where we couldn't disappoint you anymore. Dad's voice had gone quiet now, which was somehow worse than the yelling. I looked around the table at my family, really looked at them. Mom with her perfect hair and her perfectly set table, trying so hard to create some Norman Rockwell fantasy of family togetherness. Dad with his strong shoulders carrying the weight of expectations he'd never quite understood. And Tom. Tom was crying. Not the pretty, single-tear kind of crying you see in movies. Real, ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his chest. Tom. I moved toward him instinctively, all my anger temporarily forgotten. Hey, what's wrong? He looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Anna, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? For letting them do it. For going along with it. For not sticking up for you. He wiped his nose with the back of his hand like a little kid. Do you know how many times over the years they've asked me to call you with some crisis or emergency right before a big interview or a deadline? How many times they've had me guilt trip you into coming home when you said you were too busy with work? My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Remember last spring when I called you crying about Lisa breaking up with me, right before that big presentation you'd been working on for months? I did remember. I'd been preparing for the biggest pitch of my career, a potential contract with a sustainable energy non-profit that could have set me up for years. Tom had called sobbing about his girlfriend leaving him, and I'd spent 3 hours on the phone talking him through it instead of rehearsing my presentation. I'd ended up bombing the pitch and losing the contract. Lisa didn't break up with you, I said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. Lisa and I had been broken up for 2 weeks, but Mom was worried you were getting too focused on work and thought you needed a reminder about family priorities. I felt like I was going to be sick. How many times? Anna. How many times, Tom? He closed his eyes. Dozens. Maybe more. Anytime they thought you were getting too successful, too confident, too independent. There was always some family crisis that needed your immediate attention. The room started spinning for real this time. I grabbed the back of my chair to steady myself, trying to process what I was hearing. The time Grandma was sick right before I was supposed to meet with that editor in New York. Tom nodded miserably. When you needed help moving right before my graduate thesis defense. Another nod. The emergency root canal that turned out to be a regular cleaning. I'm so sorry, Anna. I thought. God, I was so young, and they convinced me it was for your own good. They said you were pushing yourself too hard, that you needed to remember what was really important. I looked at my parents, who had both gone very pale and very quiet. 20 years, I whispered. You've been sabotaging me for 20 years. Anna, Mom started, but I held up a hand to stop her. No. Don't you dare try to justify this. My voice was steady now, cold in a way that surprised even me. You convinced yourselves that I was too ambitious, too driven, too independent, so you systematically undermined every important opportunity one had. And you used my own brother to do it. We were trying to protect, Dad began. You were trying to control me. The words came out like a roar. You couldn't handle having a daughter who wanted something different than what you had, so you decided to sabotage me until I gave up and came crawling back home. Anna, please, Mom was crying now too. You have to understand, we love you. Everything we did was because we love you. No. I shook my head, feeling surprisingly calm all of a sudden. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't sabotage. Love doesn't spend 2 decades trying to tear down someone's dreams because they make you uncomfortable. I looked around the dining room one more time, at the good china and the homemade cake and the Christmas decorations that had seemed so warm and welcoming just hours ago. Now it all felt like a stage set, a carefully constructed illusion designed to hide the ugly truth underneath. I need to go, I said quietly. Anna, wait, Tom stood up, reaching for me. Please don't leave like this. We can fix this. We can. Fix what, exactly? I turned to look at him, this brother I'd thought I knew. Tom, can you give me back the contracts I lost because I was dealing with your fake emergencies? Can you give me back the opportunities one missed because I was always rushing home to handle some crisis that didn't exist? Can you give me back 20 years of believing that my own family supported me? He opened and closed his mouth several times, but no words came out. That's what I thought. I walked out of that dining room and straight up to my childhood bedroom, where I threw my clothes into my suitcase with shaking hands. 20 minutes later, I was loading my car while my family stood on the porch watching me leave. "Anna," Dad called out as I opened my car door. "Don't do this. Don't let anger make you throw away your family." I turned to look at him one last time. "I'm not throwing anything away, Dad. I'm just finally seeing what was never really there in the first place." And then I drove away, leaving my perfect suburban childhood home in my rearview mirror for what I knew would be the last time.